Journo's back at the Etihad Stadium for the second time this season, and the same result, another defeat for Newcastle United out of the FA Cup, and no real shock in the scoreline or the result. What did you make of the performance, Olin?
Newcastle's performance, I thought it was a canter for Man City largely. They've got a real habit, I think, of doing just enough to win games a lot of the time. I think Newcastle had their moments. I think the tactical switch, I was sceptical before the game about the personnel picked in the full-back positions, but I don't really think that had too much of an impact on the game as a whole. I thought it was the finest of margins in some ways, although, like I say, I think it was a bit of a canter for Man City. I think if they wanted to take it up gears, they probably could have. But Newcastle had their moments, and if they hadn't have sort of had the minor errors, that Botman, I put it down to like muscle memory, defensive muscle memory, where he's kind of flicked out at something where you think you shouldn't do it, and with time and hindsight you wouldn't have done the same thing. I was really disappointed after probably watching a game, but disappointed in the way that Joe Willock refused to close down a gap. Just didn't do it at all and left it wide open, and it's like, how far does Bernardo Silva want to waltz with the ball before he's allowed to have a shot? Yeah, I think it was those minor ones. Isak could have scored, should have scored, was a good save in the first half. Then 2 or 3 occasions when Newcastle had moments, and if they'd maybe taken a chance, could have created something, but Man City had little moments as well themselves. I remember Dubravka making a decent save from Doku and a couple of other moments. It was a deserved Manchester City win. It was far from Newcastle United's worst performance. Like I always say, things are out the cup, and it just largely felt like wasted energy, not to sound too negative, that it was just run of the mill for Man City, and it's goodbye, see you later for another year. Yeah. And we're so used to that. Yeah. But I better stop talking because everyone thinks I talk too much. not that bruises me ego.
How long was your life?
Not very long, a day.
Was it not? Oh.
No, because I thought I'd button up with this rather than waffling.
Yeah, that's what it's there for, the live. Keep going.
I know, this is your time to shine. Come on, lads.
Well, it's now at least 56 years trophy drive for Newcastle United. Eddie Howe actually said Manchester City played really well.
Don't get a trophy for 8.
Well, you never know. Conference League gives you a chance. But yeah, I didn't think Man City played particularly well. I don't think they had to play particularly well. It was a case of not really having to get out of first gear at times. They scored 2 fortunate goals, but I think had they not gone in, they would have found a way to score anyway. I think Newcastle, in the closing stages, once Eddie Howe made a few substitutions, brought on Lewis Miley, Elliot Anderson, Miguel Almiron, Lewis Hall as well, who I thought impressed off the bench, his first appearance since Newcastle last played Manchester City 2 months ago. So yeah, Newcastle didn't disgrace themselves in any way, but it was just a sort of textbook defeat at Etihad Stadium, I thought.
Just predictable. We all came out of the game and knew exactly what was going to happen. Did Newcastle do anything to change our view? I think, to be fair to Eddie Howe, he tried something different for 5 at the back. I think for parts it worked.
Definitely.
But the two goals that they've conceded, as you picked out there, Liam, it was Joe Willock that sort of let that midfield down, because it was both from that side, and I've seen fans on social media already pointing towards Dan Burn.
Didn't feel like Burn.
It didn't feel like Burn.
It was in front of them.
It was the pocket where Joe Willock is going to be. If you look at the midfield three, you've got Sean Longstaff, Bruno, and then you've got Joe Willock who's missing, and it's allowed Bernardo Silva to cut inside. Okay, he's had 2 fortunate finishers, shall we say, but you can't allow a player of that class to cut inside on his favoured foot, and he did end up beating Martin Dubravka. So I thought the performance was okay. Again, as you mentioned earlier, it wasn't Newcastle's worst performance. I think I've said on social media, I think Newcastle applied themselves relatively well today, but just didn't have that quality. I think there's a stat doing the rounds that it was Newcastle's fewest shots in the game since Bournemouth in 2015, which shows that Newcastle didn't lay a glove on Manchester City on them here in August, and they didn't lay a glove on them here at all. You mentioned that Isak chance. I think probably Almiron, if his decision making was a little bit better in the final third, they might create another opportunity.
There was an Isak opening at this end, where it was almost it was like a 2-on-1 and a 3-on-2, and none of them managed to get anything away. And it was just moments like that where they got in positions, but they didn't really get anything off.
Yeah. to be fair, Man City had a few moments like that, and I thought that's actually when Newcastle did quite well. I thought Jacob Murphy, playing in a slightly unfamiliar position,
he was all right, wasn't he?
dealt with Doku quite well, and Jamal Lascelles back in the side.
Couple of
put a
lapse
shift
of
in.
concentration, but I thought Jamal Lascelles was pretty solid, to be honest.
Fabian.
Like, a lot of people disagree with this, and we spoke about it during the game. Like, I thought Sean Longstaff was much better today. And I put out, people have read my ratings on Newcastle World, if you haven't already checked them out, but there's a lot of people unhappy with my mark of Sean Longstaff, and it was a 6 out of 10. I actually thought in the first half he was alright.
First half, he faded badly in the second half, but I think first half, for that first half hour in particular, he was the only one winning the ball, and interceptions, and considering how poor he's been recently, it was quite a step up for him.
Yeah.
He was more like his usual self.
Yes.
It was how you'd expect Sean Longstaff
Yes.
back at the start of the season to play against Manchester City.
Willock was a long way off it, but I actually think it looked a little bit like he's a square peg in a round hole, because he's not really somebody who wants to sit in a midfield three. It's not really suited to him, so I'm blaming him for maybe that first one to an extent, but that's not his strength. He's not a midfield sitter.
He hasn't got a
He almost
defensive
would have
bone in his body.
He hasn't. No, and it's almost like maybe Miley might have been a better fit, but I see why Willock was selected, because ultimately what you've got to do with Man City is you're going to let them have the ball in that space 25 to 30 yards outside of your own goal. You're going to frustrate them as much as you possibly can, stop the angles, which they're great at creating, and then hit them on the break. And Joe Willock's probably a good option to have as you take a risk on it, you lose a bit defensively, but he can give you a bit of that, and it just didn't work from today. As I said on the live, I think everything he was the exact opposite of everything you touched turned to gold, and I'm not really sure. As it's a family show, we can say what maybe it turned to. Look, I think out the cup, season's been crap.
It has been crap.
It's had its moments, but it hasn't really been much of an enjoyable experience for months now.
Use your sim. How would you describe the season?
So the start of the season, I predicted it would be, it's just a guess really, but I predicted it would be a unremarkable season with some remarkable results.
Yeah.
And I would say that actually rang really true until December.
Yeah.
And then I think there's been, after Sunderland probably, there's been nothing. And it's become an unremarkable season with very few results.
Yeah.
14 points have picked up in the league since December. So.
Current form, they're going to finish where they are.
Yeah.
And that for me is not going to be good enough. I think I said that. Have I even said that in the Geordie journals, or has it just been analysis pieces on Newcastle World and things like that? But I don't believe that 400 million and 4 windows down the line that Newcastle should be accepting 11th place, which is where Eddie Howe finished his first season. With a Steve Bruce 8 game, I think, head start, and a couple with Graham Jones or 1 or 2 in the mix as well. I think Newcastle have to do better, and I get there is a remarkable amount of mitigating circumstances, but people ask me about that in the live. My opinion on the mitigating circumstances is I think Eddie Howe, and this isn't to be too critical because I don't want this to sound like a booting session, I think he gets an easy ride with the injuries. I think the injuries are partly unlucky, unfortunate, but I also think it has to come down to probably, if you have to, you're always best looking within and asking yourself what the problems are. And I think it's got to do with the way they play and the way they train. I think it's too intense if you want to play 50 games in a season, which means you go far in cup competitions.
That's almost exactly what Pep Guardiola said.
Right, okay.
He said Newcastle will learn.
Donaldson Barcode.
You make it sound like I was copying him there, but I wasn't in this press conference.
I'm not quoting him. I'm not quoting him.
Everyone's going to see
it'll be out by the time people watch this. Basically said Newcastle will learn lessons from this season, from playing 3 games a week for the first time in a long time. Players, I think he name-checked Fabian Schär, who was so good, so consistent last season. I'd say he's still been one of Newcastle's better players this season though, but playing 1 game a week, 2 games a week, weekend to weekend, you get into that rhythm, and it's a completely new dynamic and new rhythm you have to find in your approach to training, in your approach to games, approach to yourself, looking after yourself, your own body. And Newcastle simply aren't used to that.
We talked about it in the car, didn't we?
Is what Pep Guardiola was.
So we talked about this in the car on the way down, and it was the idea that Rangers would be a really good example of that. The team that isn't winning titles in this year, but isn't winning titles in Scotland, just getting a rhythm of doing well in Europe. You get used to playing
West Ham.
different level. West Ham are the Premier League example. What was it? Semi-final winner quarter-final. They're just in that. Newcastle have had it at times where they've almost cruised to last 16s in European competitions. You're going back 20 years now, but you get in that rhythm of just playing in Europe and how to deal with it. And Eddie Howe's got no experience, so there's another thing. I mean, people might throw that criticism on him, but him and his coaches have got zero experience of dealing with European football. Never played it, never got close to playing it as a footballer. No, I don't think any of his staff probably did either, and hasn't been around football clubs that have operated at Newcastle United's level. And I hope that would be one of the lessons he learns from this season.
Yeah.
You're not at Bournemouth anymore. There are levels to this. And at Newcastle United, criticism, expectation does come with the job. But also, when you get into places like Europe, we don't just expect to turn up, we also expect to compete. And I think he tried his best to do that. But there just needs to be tweaks. And I hope he learns lessons, because we're all learning lessons in this game. I hope he learns vital ones, as Pep Guardiola said.
It's why the likes of, I'm not sure if Guardiola said it publicly, but Jurgen Klopp certainly did. When Newcastle drew at PSG, either side of beating Chelsea 4-1 and Manchester United 1-0, that run of games was almost staggering.
He was astonished, wasn't he?
To play with the same 11, to travel away from home, to do that was almost went against anything these elite managers sort of know, really.
It did go against it, and that's probably why Newcastle are where they are. They could only hold off that for so long. You can't play the way they do at that level with the same players week in, week out, and get results. And it's the cards, the house of cards has come falling down in January and onwards, and they just can't seem to put it back together. There's little moments, you know, a compact performance against Wolves, moments today in the game, but then throw in the mix, you know, at Chelsea on Monday night. That's the regularity. The inconsistent, Newcastle are consistent in being inconsistent, in that they're just not able to produce a string of performances where they're going to get themselves into a position. They've always been playing catch up this season, in my opinion. Whether that be even into December, where it's like, oh, they're into 5th now. You're always playing catch up in the idea, can we get back in the Champions League? And now that's slipped. We're still now playing catch up. Can you manage to get yourself into Europe? They're not being consistent enough to probably do it, but who knows? You know, there's 10 games to go. I still think, I don't see today. I've done it again. I'm doing the talking again.
No, keep going.
Make your point.
Right. I think everyone talks about season over. From the minute this draw was made, I'd written it off in my head, to be honest. To me, the league became the major focus the minute Man City were drawn against Newcastle United. Yeah. So to me, today is not the be-all and end-all, is what people say. Yeah, sorry, we'll only be a couple of minutes, mate. No bother, mate. Honestly, with 2 minutes. It's always the same. Geordie journals, the last in the house, as ever.
Banes of Premier League.
We are. They all hate me.
Hey, there's still other people doing
There is. One other low one. He's been doing his video for about half an hour.
Good talk at him.
He is, like, get him on the Geordie journals. What was I even saying?
Something about the end of the season.
Oh yeah, the minute that Man City was drawn out the hat against Newcastle United and it was here, I didn't say I would 100% written it off. That's probably unfair. But in my head, the whole thing flipped. The season flipped, and it became about that Wolves was more important and Chelsea was more important than this game today. So for me, I don't really feel the level of disappointment that maybe some others do. It's like, oh, cup. Yes, I want to win a trophy as much as anybody, as a Newcastle United fan, journalist. I want to cover it, but it felt quite unattainable the minute that this draw was made, because 95 times out of 100 Newcastle don't get a result here today, and that's kind of, it's probably going to be that by the next time they get a result. They don't get a result much here at all, do they?
No. 10 years.
But yeah, the focus goes on the Premier League. So for me, today hasn't been a day of loss. It's kind of just been, this is what you expected to happen, and the performance was slightly better than I'd imagined. And I think the focus now is massive. The home games against West Ham and Everton, I mean, even at a bare minimum, if you don't get 4 points from those 2 games, then you really are just staring at potentially a bottom half finish, in my opinion.
Fulham
Fulham come back into the equation.
Well, it's another team coming to the party, another team that can show a bit of form. They're very inconsistent as well, Fulham, to be fair. But every team is. Chelsea, I think West Ham, for me, would be the one that's nailed on. I think they will. They just, like I said, they get in that rut of just getting into European competitions, whether by the cup or whatever. I think they'll get one of those 2, 7 or 8, and it's whether we can get the other one. Chelsea, can they put a run together? Manchester United, like I said, I think they'll seal sixth. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that.
Brighton, Wolves.
I feel like Wolves could drop off. They've lost a lot of players, a lot of key players at key moments, and that spoils your momentum. Neto's a massive player for them. Who's the other one? Brighton. Who knows? Brighton are out. They're the most inconsistent team ever. So who knows what they can do? But Newcastle's got to win that mini league, and they've got them all to play.
Brighton at home. I think it's the last home game this season.
We've got West Ham and Brighton at home.
Yeah.
So you've got to win those games.
So
but it's no good.
Play as well.
It's no good beating. Like, this is the problem. It's no good beating Wolves. So yes, we'll win the game in my mini league, and then go and get beat at Chelsea.
Yeah.
It's the consistency. Consistently inconsistent.
Aye. Eddie Howe said it was absolute nonsense that the season's over.
Well, he's correct. That's the point I was making.
Yeah. No, it's definitely over.
Go to Dubai now.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a big couple of weeks for them in Dubai. Hopefully they do some warm weather training.
They will. He said
they have to.
They'll rest a little bit, get some players back fresh, focus minds and bodies, and then he actually said, "I don't know what we're going to do over there." Honestly,
that's not good.
Right? That's why I'm questioning it.
They'll prepare for the West Ham game, analyse the Man City game, and then when asked for the specifics, he went, "Well, I'm not sure yet. It may be something they'll plan on the plane when they fly over after tonight's game."
Has he got the meals booked on the plane? Has he got the passports?
He didn't go that specific, but yeah. Actually, last season Newcastle went to Dubai, came back, won 6 of the next 7 games, and basically secured Champions League football on the back of it. So it's a different sort of situation they're heading into Dubai this time around, but it certainly had a positive impact on his side last season. So we'll be hoping for the same again this season. But yeah, like I say, different sort of circumstances. And you'll be hoping Tino Livramento's back and Harvey Barnes for the West Ham game. Twisted ankle. Knew on Tuesday that he wasn't going to make the game today.
And shocked that he didn't tell us in the pre-match press conference.
Shocking. I think it hurt his England chances.
It did, because he was in.
That in the live, yeah. I think we all know that he was right in the mix to get, and it became, as you said earlier, Jordan, it was almost stare him in the face when he wasn't named in any England squad.
Yeah.
And we didn't see it.
We just didn't click. Got slapped in the face and didn't feel it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's killed it. I think we're going to get kicked out anyway, so.
So
I'm reluctant to talk too much, so I'm just leaving you to it.
It takes stuff to heart. Yeah.
I've taken that to heart.
Come on, Liam. Have you got anything to add?
Liam didn't want to be in the middle today.
No, I didn't actually.
We've got Liam in the middle.
I look like a sad case here, don't I?
Yeah, I know.
I keep dipping off accidentally, and people think, "Oh, he's hiding." Hey man, no, well, it's all fun and games. We love your comments. Loads on the live.
Need to think of what we're going to do during this international break, because we're not going to Dubai.
Yeah, we'll do a last minute Eddie Howe plan for the international break. But we're going to have to keep it consistent.
Warm weather training in time, love.
Yeah, should we do some warm weather training?
If it's warm.
Should we do from like the sunbed shop in Forest Hall? Hey, you come for the crack, don't you? I'm sure you do. Maybe not. Right. You've probably had enough of our analysis. Jordan, you got anything to add? I want to make sure you've had a fair percentage of
I feel like I've
talk time today.
I feel like I've spoken a little bit more today.
Do you?
I feel like it, yeah. I haven't really got much to add. It was a predictable result. We've looked at some of the positives, and now it's all about what happens between West Ham and the end.
Did you watch Bruno at the end?
He looked upset.
I thought so.
Well, that's the thing. It's this period for you think your top players, like your Brunos, Isaacs, they'll not be happy with exit. I mean, no one will be happy with exiting competitions, but Bruno didn't come to this club to go out to the quarterfinals and to finish 10th. Yeah. So yeah, I think it was we're seeing him at the end. He looked the most defeated out of football Newcastle players.
He went over and joined the clap of the fans at the end. You know what? It was interesting. I was speaking to people here, and Chris Waddle, I think he might be doing. Was he doing the BBC commentary?
In the press conference.
Yeah, well, he was doing the BBC commentary, and he was reeling off some stats with regards. I think Newcastle had 1 shot on target in the whole game.
Right. Yeah.
So you've got a place. This is another angle to look at it from. You've got a place in a semi-final, and you were unable to give 7,000-8,000 fans anything to shout about. He argued that was probably the worst he's seen Newcastle play. Now, I didn't agree with that, but I can see why he said it when you look at the stats.
How many games has he watched this season?
Well, I know I said that. I said I would argue they were worse here in the Premier League. I think that was a better performance than the Premier League game.
Probably was.
Although I would argue
quite similar.
Man City's intensity was different today to what it was in that game.
Yeah.
But I would say that I can see his point. You've got a chance at a Wembley final. Have you really given it all? Are you going to go into that change room? And he was a player, none of us were, but he was a player saying, could I have gone back into that change room knowing I'd tried my hardest? He said, if I had a chance, I would just go and I would try and make something happen. I would try and beat a man. I would have a shot. To give 78,000 fans one shot on target in 90 minutes in a quarter final of an FA Cup, he described as almost like a surrender.
Well, you can't argue
and
with
actually,
England national, can you?
No.
Makes a very good point.
You've got a good left peg, like Don, but you know
Chris
Waddle, like.
I reckon Don could grow a mullet, like. We couldn't, but
I could grow a mullet. It would just have a bald spot right in the middle. Right, like I say, you come for the crack sometimes, and a bit of the analysis as well.
If people are still watching, then fair enough.
You want to sign off?
That's on. Yeah, if you want. So yeah, that was our latest Geordie Journos waffle here from the Etihad Stadium. Geordie Journos. We'll be back in the pre-match press conference, myself in Jordan at the Newcastle United training ground in a couple of weeks' time. Hopefully we'll do a video before then. If you've got any ideas of what you want us to talk about, in the meantime, let us know in the comments below. But as always, please like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, comment below for all your latest Geordie Journos content. Cheers.